Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going to be wrapping up my best of series, but this video is going to be a little different. All my previous videos would cover my brand favorites for a specific brand, so it's a lot of dedicated videos, but there are so many other indie brands that I really love that I think make amazing polishes, but I just either don't have enough of them to do a dedicated video, or more importantly, I just don't have enough time to talk about all of them unless I talk about all of them in one video. So this is going to be my best of indie edition. As a general disclaimer, I am not talking about every single indie brand that's out there because there are so many. The majority of the ones that I'm talking about in this video, I have tried in the past, whether I bought the polishes myself or they were sent to me in PR, but again, all thoughts and opinions are honest and my own. So without further ado, let's just get into it. The first brand I want to talk about is Olive Ave Polish because I have done dedicated videos for them in the past, but I just didn't have time this year. They're a small indie brand based in Massachusetts, and full disclosure, I am an affiliate with the brand as well, so a lot of these polishes, if not the majority of them, have been sent to me in PR. I really love Olive Ave and highly recommend them for their cream polishes specifically. I mean, I guess when it comes to their catalog, they are 90% creams. Olive Ave is not the brand I would suggest if you are looking for more exciting kind of finishes, though she does have some shimmers and like metallic and sparkly shades, but they're just more on the subtle side. But her cream polishes are just amazing. They are so smooth, super easy to work with. I love the paddle brushes. While she did have her usual seasonal releases this year, she did do a slightly different thing where she came out with a couple of new shades, but also brought back a lot of returning favorites. So those are the ones that I would highlight for this video because they're just favorites that I've shared in the past, but you know, unfortunately they weren't around, but I'm so happy that she brought so many of them out of retirement. So I would say some of my top picks are Lantern, which is this dusty kind of green shade that is beautiful and perfect for winter. I also really love Patterson, which is this gorgeous shade that's like a very hot red orange. Definitely one of those chameleon shades where next to more truer bright oranges, it looks very red, but then next to true reds, it looks very orange. I feel like those colors are kind of hit or miss for me, but that is just like the perfect balance and I love it so, so much. But if you do want something that's like similar to that color, but slightly more red, less orange, I would also look at Spark, which is one of the newer shades that came out this year. It's in that similar color family, but it has this gorgeous holographic sparkle that again is a little on the subtle side. It's more of like that scattered finish, but I think it's so, so pretty. Another newer shade I love from them is Magi, which is this gorgeous like hot pink fuchsia kind of cream. It's just so bold, so saturated. And some other kind of brighter picks that I love that came back this year were Strawberry and Tang. Those two are like two of my top favorites. I feel like I say that in general about a lot of Olive Ave shades, but I just especially love those two together for the summertime. Tang especially because I am an orange lover. I feel like it's been gone for so many years, so I was really excited to see it back this year. So if you're looking for a cute orange, I cannot recommend that one more. The next brand I want to talk about is Cirque Colors because they are another brand that I used to do dedicated videos for, but as you all know, I have not been getting Cirque PR this year, except for the couple of collections that Beyond Polish would send me through PR. So I have my experiences with Cirque. I don't want to really get into all of that in this video. I just want to keep it about like the brand, the polishes. I really do like their shimmer formulas and have shared so many of those favorites in the past, though I feel like nowadays in today's market, we do have a lot of other brands that do similar enough finishes and for slightly more affordable prices as well. But you know, it doesn't hurt looking around, but I would say the main thing to look out for with Cirque is to just double check swatches. They have a bad habit of over editing their photos where it's like beyond what's necessary in terms of like color correction, and sometimes the colors just don't look anything like the polishes that you get. So please, if you are going to be shopping from Cirque, do your due diligence. I mean, I'm sure if you are already watching my video on YouTube, you probably watch other reviewers, so make sure you do that. And even just checking on Reddit, there's a lot of people who post their photos and reviews as well. To no one's surprise, the top finish I would recommend from Cirque is their jelly polishes, because they just have dominated the jelly market. There are a lot of brands that have been putting out like jellies here and there, but they just don't compare to Cirque's massive catalog. You might remember last year, I think in the springtime, I put out this almost hour-long video of swatching every single jelly that I had up until that point. So their color selection is pretty unmatched compared to a lot of other brands. And I would say quality-wise, they are really nice. They are very jelly, like glassy and translucent, a little bit on the thinner side where they can maybe feel like a little watery, which I know maybe people don't really like, but obviously with jellies, the whole point is being able to see through them. There's a lot of versatility with like doing nail art with jellies, or even just layering different colors to create new colors, which is what I would do a lot with Cirque. So while there are a decent amount of brands that do make jelly polishes like Island P, Starrily, LA Colors, all of those which I've tried and have loved, not to mention other brands that I haven't tried like Fancy Gloss, Emily Damali. I think Owl Lacquer also has a couple of jellies too, but again, their color selections just aren't as expansive. So speaking of Starrily, they are the next brand I want to talk about because they have such great polishes. It's such a shame that they don't release like as often, because I feel like this year they've only put out 2 collections and it's kind of easy to like forget about them in a way. And I feel like that's such a shame because again, they are amazing, amazing polishes. I would highly recommend their jelly polishes, especially if you do want something that's even more pigmented. Like you don't want something that's super, super sheer and glassy, but it still gives you that like squishy jelly look. This was a collection I bought myself earlier this year, and I was so excited to finally try them out and see that they like lived up to the hype. I honestly think I would say they are my favorite jelly formula. The consistencies, the way they self-level, the pigmentation, it's just like hitting every single spot for me. But again, you know, your taste might be a little different, whether you want something that's more sheer or even less punchy in color. With Starrily, I really hope that they expand their jelly polishes because they are gorgeous. They're also a brand that just has a lot of other specialty finish shades, so their shimmers are just as gorgeous. I would say maybe one of my top favorites from this year is Dream Logic. The glow in that one is just so insane. Like, I don't know, it's just so different than other kind of shimmers, similar to like that same collection where it's like a crelly base with this like glowy shimmer and maybe a dainty hollow. Dream Logic just had this different kind of shimmer combination, I guess, and maybe paired with like the color combination. I just found that one to be such a standout. And I really love their magnetics as well because they have like that perfect balance again of these pigmented jelly bases that are like really easy to magnetize, but also build up to be fully opaque in 2 coats, especially with the cat eye effect. One of my top favorites that's come out this year is Oceanic Moonlight, which is this vibrant sapphire blue. Like, it is so insane how bright it is. Initially, when that first collection came out with the magnetics, I really was loving Polar Light Show, which is like the lighter aqua blue. And don't get me wrong, I still think it's super stunning, but I feel like over time, I would just gravitate more and more towards Oceanic Moonlight because it's just so eye-catching. And for a softer kind of look, I really love Reality Shift, which is from that Liminal Dreams collection. It has this like lavender kind of base, this like icy shimmer that also has a blue shimmer in the background. So it's more of that like quintessential indie color combination that we see a lot, but just in a magnetic, and it's just so ethereal, so lovely. The next brand I want to talk about is Apocalypse Polish, which is a newer brand. I've been reviewing them for the last like year on my channel, and I've really been loving their formulas. Overall, they have this more apocalyptic kind of theme inspired by by fictional apocalypses inspired by like movies, video games, whatever other kind of media. And I would say across the board, their formulas are fantastic, super highly pigmented, very full coverage. But my top favorite finish from them is their micro glitters. I have really been loving that finish so much. I know glitters are like not for everybody. They can be annoying when it comes to removal and whatnot, but if you put on a peel off base coat and use your glitter grabber, why not enjoy how blingy your nails can look with their glitters? They're more of a micro glitter formula as well, so they're just like really tiny but have this beautiful like color combination with them that I think makes them super unique. I'm sure to nobody's surprise, my top pick and recommendation is I Am Become Barbie, because it's the pink micro glitter, but it has these pops of blue and maybe purple. It is just so pretty. But if you want like a more Halloween vibe, I would highly recommend looking at Shaun of the Deadland, because that's a perfect Halloween mix of orange and purple. Another indie brand I want to talk about is Fauve Cosmetics, which is also a newer brand. They only celebrated their 1-year anniversary, I think, in the last month, and I've been reviewing them on my channel since the springtime, and they have quickly become one of my new favorites. If you couldn't tell by the name, Fauve really caters to a lot of art history, and their collections are inspired by artists or art movements, with the individual polishes usually inspired by specific paintings by their respective artists. So it's just such a beautiful, like well thought out collection every single time. She does a lot of beautiful shimmer polishes. I feel like she also has a lot of thermals, magnetics, glow in the dark shades, so a lot of like specialty finishes as well. And while I have my favorites from each of those, I think my top standout finish from Fauve is actually their toppers. They've just put out these really gorgeous, unique glitter combination for their toppers that again fit within the themes of their collection and are just so unique to what's on the market. My top favorite is Butterfly Garden, which came out in the Impressionism collection earlier in the spring. It's just what you would expect with these dainty butterfly glitters and this pastel color mix. It's just so whimsical and just truly one of my top favorites. And more recently, from the Van Gogh collection, they came out with a topper called Stargazing, which has these star glitters, these like iridescent glitters, just so magical. I love the mix in it so much. I know there are like a couple of other star glitters on the market, but like that one I would say is my favorite from everything that we've seen. I know it can be seen as like a little extra because there are just like these added glitters and flakies and whatnot, as opposed to like just a star glitter and like a dainty hollow. But I feel like that's kind of the case for a lot of Fauve's polishes, where her magnetics specifically are usually not just a plain magnetic. They always have a shimmer or a flaky in the background. And I personally love those. I love the extra sparkle in them. I think they're always just so beautiful with their color combinations. So I would say one of my top favorite magnetics most recently is Frida, which is obviously from the Frida Kahlo collection. It's like this gorgeous, deep berry kind of color. But I also really loved two from the Van Gogh collection called Moonlit and Starry Night, because they're just obviously giving starry night sky vibes, just so magical. I love polishes like that so much. The one downside with Fauve though is that they usually do have these like smaller caps with their polishes, probably because they have like so many, and the majority of them are available for pre-order only, where maybe there are some on the website that are available or like in stock to ship out, but the majority are polishes that like she has to make. So, it's more of like that real at-home indie process. So I know the wait time can definitely be really like frustrating to deal with, especially this time of year, because a lot of people are shopping, for the holiday season, and having to wait so long to get them. It can be like a little frustrating, but that's kind of the trade-off when you are shopping from such a small brand. But I still really love them, so I wanted to talk about them in this video. Another smaller indie that I've been reviewing on my channel this past year is Sylvanclaw, which I feel like they are such an underrated brand. I guess that makes sense because they are still very new, but they have made some really amazing quality polishes. I mean, obviously that's the case for like everything I'm talking about, but I don't know, they just feel so silky smooth, like so fluid. So if you are somebody who prefers like slightly thinner formulas maybe, but they still are very buildable, I would highly recommend checking them out. They have a beautiful selection of different shimmers, holographics, flakies. I would say that their shimmers are probably my top favorite, but also their flaky jelly polishes. I think they only have 2 that I can think of, but they are so stunning, just giving those like fairy kind of vibes, just absolutely magical. Also, you know, I kind of hate to recommend like thermals, but they came out with a thermal recently called the Wilted Rose, and it is so pretty. Like, I love that shade so much. That's probably like one of the only thermals I feel comfortable recommending because they have it priced at the same rate as like their other polishes, which I really appreciate because with thermals, they have a shorter shelf life. They are gonna lose their transition after a couple of years. And I also found out from Reddit that they're like the cheapest pigment to get. So seeing like the crazy markup from some other brands is, you know, just kind of wild, but yeah, I really love that thermal specifically. The next brand I want to talk about is KBShimmer, which I feel like is a pretty big brand, almost on the same level as Cirque in a way, where at least I would consider them a boutique brand, but either way, they have a ton of beautiful polishes, really great quality and consistency across the board. So you can't go wrong with whatever you choose. But again, since I'm sharing my favorite, I would say they are the best when it comes to reflective glitters. Now, I know so many people don't care about reflective glitters anymore, but for those of you who do, I highly recommend checking them out. I feel like they just have a really great color selection, generally really nice formulas, though some of the older reflective glitters that they have are a little bit on that thick, gritty side, so you probably are gonna need some thinner for them. But the more recent reflectives that they've come out with are in these more like jelly-based while still being absolutely packed with the glitter. So either way, you are going to want like a peel off base, a glitter grabber, all that kind of stuff. But they are so amazing. I love how sparkly they are. You can't go wrong with whatever color you choose. But I would say one of my top favorite or recommendations is their topper called Out of Sequins. It's just a silver reflective glitter topper that I feel like is a little more on the dainty side. Like, I remember comparing it to Cirque's, I think it was called Disco Ball, but that was a lot more densely packed and just like looked a lot grayer on the nail, which I know is a thing that happens with reflective glitters, but Out of Sequins just doesn't have as much of this like gritty gray kind of texture to it. So I think it makes for a fantastic topper. I love wearing it over a milky white, especially for winter, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful combo. And speaking of glitters, another polish that I really love from KBShimmer that I highly recommend is called Hexy Bikini. This is like a traditional hex glitter mix kind of balm that is so sparkly, super packed in all of these different glitters in silver, pink, and like teal or aqua. Just such a beautiful and unique color combination. I mean, I feel like these days we don't really see these glitter balms like we used to, and there's something about it that just feels very like indie in a way, but it's just so, so pretty. I feel like I've recommended it over the last couple of years that I've had it, and I know a lot of people have actually gotten it and have really loved it. So if this is like a new to you kind of polish, this is so, so pretty. Also, I can't talk about KBShimmer without talking about their sugar scrubs. Oh my gosh, they are so yummy. I'll actually be talking more about them at the end of the video when I share more of like my wish list, but I love their scents, and I think they're like a really nice balance of whatever scent combinations they have without being overpowering or like sickly sweet. I would say the only sugar scrub that I maybe don't recommend that I've tried obviously is the strawberry crunch one. It's like, you know, cereal inspired. I think it's just the note of like caramel that I personally don't like, which is weird because other than that, I do really like caramel. So I don't know, maybe it's like the combination of scents in that one that just like didn't really do it for me. But so many of the other ones that I've tried have been amazing. They also just feel really nice as sugar scrubs. They're a little more on like the oily emollient kind of side. So obviously be careful if you are using them in the shower. They're not super, super greasy at the same time either. So it shouldn't be too bad, but you know, just as a warning. Up next, I want to talk about Polished for Days. They are a pretty small indie brand, but I feel like they've been around for like 10 plus years at this point. So maybe they're not as small as they used to be, I don't know, but they're another brand that just makes such beautiful polishes, such amazing shimmers. I feel like the quality is really great. I've only tried like a handful of them over the years, but they all were just like really gorgeous shades and like nothing to be disappointed by. If you haven't tried them already, I would highly recommend picking up the shade Lush, which I absolutely am obsessed with. It's just like that perfect glowy ethereal fairy kind of cellophane polish in that sort of like expected color combination where it's that blue shimmer against like a purple base, but this one is just so freaking glowy. Like, it is otherworldly. You really can't stop staring at your nails when you're wearing it. It's just so magical. And I feel like they have a couple of like sibling polishes maybe, or at least the one I'm thinking of is You're Gonna Be Popular, which is like the pink version. So maybe you don't need both of those, but at least if you have one of them, it's gonna be so freaking pretty. Another one I really love is called Blossom, that has this like orchid purple kind of base with like a fiery red shimmer. It's just so, like, you can't go wrong with their shimmers. They are just so glowy, such gorgeous formulas. They're also a great brand for a lot of like jelly flaky kind of polishes that are like really packed with flakies. So if you're a flaky lover, definitely recommend checking them out, or other brands like Cuticula and Rogue Lacquer. Ooh, something else actually that I really love about Polished for Days is that they have a blurring base coat called Soft Focus, and they have a few different colors as well, so you can kind of like choose, you know, which undertone you want to get. The first one that I tried was called Plum Taupe, and unfortunately it was like a bit too dark for me, but then I got Briar Rose, which is a little closer to my skin tone, and I feel like it's a perfect blurring base for me. I've shared it a couple of times in some previous videos when I'm like showing the comparison of how a sheer polish will look with and without the blurring base, and it definitely does make a difference. With some polishes, it can look a little different, like it changes the undertone, but I find that it's like very few colors. I'm not sure what it is about them specifically, if it is like something that leans very warm, just kind of ends up looking more neutral with this base. So obviously be a little mindful of that, especially if you are interested in getting like their So Chill, I think is the blue one. That's obviously gonna give like a more blue undertone to whatever you put on top of it. But yeah, I really love the color selection. Again, I only have like the one, but I have been tempted by the white one because I feel like I do have a lot of like sheer white kind of polishes, and it would just be easier to layer them over a white blurring base coat. Which, by the way, if I like didn't explain it properly, a blurring base coat is a proper base coat that has this colored tint to it. So it's kind of like a two-in-one product, as opposed to layering a base coat and then a layer of like your sheer pink or white or whatever. So it's just one less coat to do, which, you know, I know in the grand scheme of like nail painting, it might not make a difference, but it could. Next, I want to talk about Kathleen Co because I recently reviewed them on my channel, and they have such beautiful polishes. Again, very similar to like a lot of the other brands where they have a great selection of shimmers and multi-chromes especially. But they also have that like really silky smooth kind of formula. I would say that it's really similar to Sylvanclaw now that I think about it, where it's just like so thin, but like still very pigmented and easy to build up. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it's just one of those weird things where if you have tried like these different brands, you can tell like a slight difference in them. But overall, they are really fantastic. Again, that perfect paddle brush that is just so easy to apply. It's just like they apply themselves basically. From their most recent collection, I would highly recommend the shade PS because it's basically the fall winter sibling polish to follow your dreams, which you know that I'm like obsessed with that shade. It's such a super stunning shade that I'm so happy is a part of her catalog compared to Follow Your Dreams, which was a limited edition shade. Another brand that I've tried and have really loved and was impressed with their formulas is Owl Lacquer. They mainly have this like fall Halloween kind of vibe, but there are a couple of polishes that are very bright and like summery too. They do also have a couple of jelly polishes. I think they mainly have this like milky pastel collection and then a smaller collection of like these neon jellies. I haven't tried any of those, and to be honest, I'm not really interested in trying them just because the neons kind of remind me of like the Island P ones that came out this summer, and the pastel milky ones are just like a little too light for me. If they had like a little bit more color to them, I would be interested in trying them, especially as like potential dupes for Dimension Nails, which sadly is not around anymore. But if you want a really soft, milky kind of look, I've heard great things about their formulas. As far as the ones that I've tried, their creams are fantastic. I could see people saying maybe they're like on the thicker side, so you know, you might need some thinner, but for the cost, they are amazing, really full coverage, like almost one coaters. And like I mentioned, they also have really fun Halloween kind of shades. I would say my top favorite recommendation is Scary Stories. It's their version of a black to red multi-chrome, but it also has these like lavender metallic flakes in them that just make it so unique. But I feel like a lot of their shades are also very unique, and again, just having that like Halloween spooky inspo is just so fun. But they also again have like really general like fall themed polishes as well that are just like so on point. I know at this rate we're kind of well past fall and we're heading into the winter season, but for anyone that's like a fall person through and through, that's a great brand to check out. And the last brand that I want to talk about is Knees Lacquer. Now, I kind of hesitate bringing them up because I know there's a lot of like FOMO around them. Like I mentioned with some previous brands, a lot of these like smaller indies, you know, aren't able to have tons of stock of like every shade. And so it makes sense that, you know, there are going to be these like smaller batches. But I feel like with Bee's Knees, it kind of is like the marketing that can also go into that FOMO territory, where I'm pretty sure it's happened more than once that they send out an email saying, hey, we're bringing back this shade, but there's only gonna be like 10 of them. And if you don't get it, it's the last time. But then they end up restocking it like, you know, months later. So I don't know, it kind of is annoying. But that being said, they do make some really pretty polishes. I would say that they have a beautiful selection for magnetics specifically, where they are just very pigmented and full coverage, and specifically just having that like really finely milled magnetic pigment that just gives it this gel look. I feel like they've already come out with a couple of shades in their catalog. One of the top favorites that I want to recommend, but like, you know, I don't want to add to the FOMO, I'm so sorry, but if you can get Bog Dweller, it is so freaking gorgeous. It is just such a unique shade of green. Like, formula and, you know, finely milled magnetic aside, it's really the color that is so like unique to me and made it like a must-have in my opinion. If you're not much of a green lover, forget about it, right? It's not even that important. But they do have like other, like I think there's a blue called Bad Vibes Only, which looks really stunning. That's one that I didn't get because I thought Starrely's Oceanic Moonlight is close enough, at least color-wise. But Bee's Knees has that like super fine, like almost gel-like look to it. So if that's what you're after, Bee's Knees is like the better brand to try. They also have a line of magnetics called Mosaics, which I think are basically like multi-chrome magnetics, if I understand it correctly, because they seem pretty like color shifty, which I know we have seen multi-chrome magnetics from like other brands and everything, but I don't know, there's just something about them that looks so beautiful. I feel like more often than not, when I'm scrolling Reddit and seeing, you know, people's manis, there's a stunning magnetic, and like 9 times out of 10, it's a Bee's Knees shade, but also 9 times out of 10, it's like out of stock and whatever. So I kind of just want to bring them up because they're supposed to be restocking a lot of shades. So if you're able to get them, you're probably gonna be happy. But if not, you know, it's not the end of the world. Sooner or later, we are gonna see another brand come out with something similar. That pretty much wraps up the best of indie edition. I really hope that you enjoyed this video because I haven't done a style like this. Like, obviously I've talked about my brand favorites before, but not where I'm talking about all of them. And again, I'm sorry that I didn't have swatches for a lot of these. One, I just did not have time to do it, but also there's a lot of shades that I want to talk about that I either don't have in my collection or they're on my wish list to get. And that makes me want to talk about like what's on my actual wish list for Black Friday, because obviously I'm just sharing a lot about what's available and whatnot. In the previous years, I did go kind of crazy with my Black Friday shopping because I just was excited to try these different brands. This year, I'm actually not really going to be shopping that much. Like, the priority that I have, which I talked about in my Island P video, was getting replacement brushes for my Island P shades. But Nick from NYX Polish reminded me that Cupcake Polish sells replacement brushes for much cheaper. I forget, it's like 22 cents or something per brush. There is a limit of ordering 100 per person per month, but even just ordering 100 brushes, it comes out to like barely $30, and that's half the price that I would pay ordering from Island P. So I'm not gonna get them from Island P anymore. I'm gonna get them from Cupcake. I know I had also talked about a couple of polishes that were on my Island P wish list, but the more that I think about it, the more I kind of talk myself out of them, where it's just really similar to something I already have, or just something that I know I'm not really gonna end up wearing. So I'm trying to be better at that. I mean, you guys know I'm always talking about like not having room for more polishes. So I really don't need to be buying more because I already get a lot just from like PR alone. And then not to mention, I'd rather prioritize things like polish pickup or hella handmade. So I'm not gonna be getting anything from Island P after all. But what I did end up buying were a bunch of scrubs from KBShimmer, which I feel like shouldn't be surprising because again, I just really love them. I've used so many of them and often look for them for polish pickup. And I love that every July for Rewind, KBShimmer will bring back a lot of their sugar scrubs from the past year or so, maybe even like the years before. As of recording, there still are a good amount of scrubs on their website, especially like these previous PPU scents. Unfortunately, I did miss out on the one that I really, really wanted, which was Spring Blooms. I think that came out in like March or April of this year. It smelled divine and I was so looking forward to getting like not a backup because I already finished the first one that I got, but just ordering it again. And there was only one left. Like, I saw in the cart that there was just one, but it was just taking so long to check out, and at the end it was like, oh, this one's out of stock. So I ended up missing out on that one, but I got so many other scents. I honestly don't remember them all. Most of them are for me, but I did end up getting a couple just to kind of like gift them to friends and family for the holidays. I also did have a couple of Bee's Knees shades on my wish list for Black Friday. Some of the magnetics, like the mosaic magnetics, I think it was called Floral Maiden. And then there's a new shade that's coming out called Shadows Are Mine that I was like so in love with, but once I saw like more photos, I was like, they kind of just, you know, remind me of other things. So I won't be getting those either. But yeah, I had a couple of things on my wish list initially, like, you know, polish wise. Ultimately not getting any of those. I only got sugar scrubs and I plan on getting the brushes from Cupcake Polish. So now that really wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave me any and all thoughts you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.